and welcome to my very bad game development. The game hopefully at some point in the long away future will be good, but the development is bad because I have no idea what I'm doing. Today I wanted to stop my player object from getting stuck to the walls because if I walked into a solid object, I couldn't escape. I decided to start with the collision masks for my player. So I went to each individual sprite for the walking and idle animations for my player, and I checked to make sure that all of the collision masks were rectangles and they all matched each other. But I was still getting stuck to the walls when I went to playtest it. I could at least escape at some point, so I was making some improvement. At this point, I checked the collision masks of some of my solid objects to make sure that that wasn't the problem, but I was still getting stuck to walls. I decided to make the player sprites all have a precise mask instead of a rectangle mask to see if that would help at all, but when I went to play, I was still getting stuck to walls and I was getting really frustrated at this point. I didn't understand what was happening or what I could do to make it better. Like a big dummy, my sprites were not all lined up to the canvas, so each sprite was in a different location on the canvas. So I decided to change every sprite's collision mask back to a rectangle, but then move the center of the sprite to match the drawing rather than the canvas to see if it was getting stuck in walls because the sprite drawings were different. So because of that, I could run around and not get stuck to any of the solid objects that I had, and I could move on to my next order of business, which was some object sorting and layering. Like a terrible game developer, I went to each individual solid object I had and did the depth sorting in each object. I also changed the collision masks of the objects so that I could walk behind and in front of them rather than not interact with them at all, if that makes sense. But when I went to go play test it, the objects were still not layering right, and I didn't understand why, so I stared at my screen for a while. And then I decided to go to the parent object for solid objects and put the depth sorting into that instead of the individual objects, and it made it worse. But then I finally realized that my depth sorting was in the create event instead of the step event where it should have been. So I switched the depth sorting to the step event for my player object as well as my solid objects, and then I went to each individual solid object and deleted the depth sorting from their create objects. I also at this point changed the collision mask of my player sprites to only be the feet so he could walk in front of and behind different objects. And finally, my dreams came true. I could walk in front of and behind solid objects. I did notice, however, that there was still some weird sticking happening. I didn't know if it was the shape of the collision masks, so I tried to make them a little bit more precise. And I also went back to my player sprites, made them rectangles again, and fit them to the feet and knees, kind of. So like a real person, if somebody walks behind something, they won't run into it, only their feet will run into it. And then I did the stupidest thing ever and moved my drawings on the canvas for my sprites. Except I only moved the first drawing of each sprite instead of all of the drawings for every animation. So when I finally got done with that, thinking that it would make the player stop sticking to objects, my animation looked like this, and I had a little guy that skipped around because the first drawing of the animation was way off compared to the rest of the animation. So when I walked around in game, my guy was skipping around and I ruined it. At this point, I honestly didn't even know what to do. I just stared at the screen. I tried putting my first drawing back to the location where it was supposed to be. I tried to center them and move the other drawings back, but I was pretty done for the day. I had done a lot of really stupid things and had not gotten very far, so that was where I ended for the day. But hopefully soon my very bad game development will get a little bit better.